In the previous video, we were looking at finding zeros and multiplicities. So we found some multiplicities of some zeros that had multiplicity of 5, 2, 1, things of this nature. Now the whole point of finding these multiplicities, and I'm going to come over here to a graph, because the things that we were finding were our x-intercepts. Okay, so the last one that we found, and I'm going to come back over here, and the last one that we looked at was g of x. We had zeros at 0, 2, and negative 1. Okay, so we had 0, 2, and negative 1. So these are our zeros. Now, we have all seen different graphs, and I'm going to come back up here to a blank one so that we can kind of look at it and all. I'm going to erase what I had up here before. And so we have seen different graphs where they have gone through, maybe they touch, maybe they go through, maybe they touch here, go through, things like this. So the multiplicity is going to tell us what is happening at that zero. Does it touch and come back down or go back up? Or does it go through the x-axis? So the multiplicity actually tells us what is happening at that particular point. And so when we look at this, what we look at is, with multiplicity, we look at the fact that the multiplicity itself is even or odd. Not the zero, but the multiplicity. In other words, how many times does that zero occur? So if the multiplicity is even, it is going to touch the graph and go back down or go back up. So looking at this graph, this particular thing, I don't know how many it has, but this would have an even multiplicity. And this would have an even multiplicity because it touched and went back. It touched and went back. If it has an odd multiplicity, it's what we call cross. It crosses at that zero. So these right here would all have odd multiplicities. And what is actually happening at these? Let's think about like you're at the threshold of a door. And the even and odd is how many times you are at that door. So let's say that x is equal to negative 3, and it has a multiplicity of 2. So that means here at negative 3, you're going to go through that door twice. So you come up to that door, you go through it once, and then you go back through it. So you're back on the same side. Okay? And so if you go through the door twice, you go through and then back through, you're back on the same side as you started with. So you're going to be back on that same side. Now, if you were, let's say, at x equal to 4, and you had a multiplicity of just a 1, maybe that means you're going through the door one time. Well, you just go through the door one time. And so you're on the other side. Or if you had a multiplicity of 5, you go through the door 5 times. You go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're on the other side, okay? So you are on the other side, so you've crossed over. And so when you're looking at the multiplicity, think about if you're odd, you're on the other side of the x-axis. So you've crossed over. If you're even, you stay on the same side as what you started with. And so with these, on the multiplicities, right here, we would cross through the x-axis. And we would cross the x-axis. And we would touch the x-axis and stay where we're at. All of these things are helping us graph this function. So let's take this g of x and let's look at actually graphing it. So here are our x-intercepts, and that g of x that we were looking at said negative x to the fourth plus an x to the third plus 2x squared. So we know our x-intercepts. So let's look at a couple of other things. What is our leading coefficient? Well, our leading coefficient is a negative. So that means I'm going to be going down on this side. What is my degree? Well, my degree is a 4. So that means I'm going the same direction. So that means I'm going down and down. We have our x-intercepts. They were at x equals 0, x equal 2, and x equal negative 1. Our 0 had a multiplicity of 2. This one had a multiplicity of 1. And this had a multiplicity of 1. So that means at the 0, we touch, and everything else we cross. So let's look. We start out here, and we go to negative 1. At negative 1, it says we cross. Okay, so we're going to cross. Then we go to 0. At 0, we touch, so that means we stay on the same side. Then we go to 2, and it says we cross, and we're ending up down here, which is what our end behaviors said. We would end up down and down. So when you're graphing these, no, I'm not expecting you to be exact on these, okay? If you can find a different y-intercept, yes, and we'll do an example of these also. But kind of insert your end behaviors and start with those, and then go to your x-intercepts, cross, touch, cross, that type of thing, and you should notice that you will start with one end behavior and you should end up with the other end behavior if you have done everything correctly. Okay? So in the next video, we will look at a couple more of these and actually graph them.